Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Loan Officer Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Kiles, and we're powered by the Mortgage Marketing Animals. And if you've ever wanted to hear a story of success and what someone's doing today and how they've seen the success they've seen, you're in for a treat because today, Toni Taylor, who is a coach in the Freedom Club and one of my dear friends, we're going to have a conversation about where she has come from and the huge amount of success she's seen, and then also how fun it is to be a coach with the Freedom Club. And I just thought it would be an encouraging story. Here's what I know. If you're listening, and sometimes you just need the encouragement to be faithful, to keep going, to not stop, to don't quit, to literally be able to say, me too, then this is the episode. You're in for a treat. Toni Taylor, what is up, my friend?
How are you, Steve? Thank you so much. I'm excited. I hope this makes a difference for some people out there.
Oh, man, I know it will. And I've got to tell you, you are so precious. And you just got married this last year.
I did. Yeah.
Life
now
has been a
now it's like
whirlwind.
business check, personal life check.
Man, I love that. And so,
Yeah.
hey, well, listen, why don't you do this? You're a coach here at the Freedom Club. Tell us your story. How did you get to where you're at? How long have you been in the Freedom Club? And just share with us. I thought you could encourage and share your story.
Yeah. And I think it's important to add too, that I am in the Freedom Club as a coach, but I'm also still running my own business. So,
yes,
it's definitely, this is hopefully, again, going to help somebody make a difference. I came to the group over 6 years ago. And when I came to the group, I was at a pain point that I hear this all the time from people, that I was running the one-man band program, and I was working a ton of hours. I remember my daughter coming into my office one day and saying, she wanted something, and I gave her the typical just a minute, and she literally threw her hand on her hip and said, "You always say that, Mom." And it was, I was already feeling it, but she shined the light on it that like something's got to change. And so I had been watching Carl and Tammy for a few years and had just never gotten to the event, the 2-day, 3-day event, to be able to check it out. It just always seemed like I had a calendar confliction. So it came up and I was like, I do not care what happens. I am going to this event. I am going to find out how I can make my life better and different and get back the things that really matter, that are bigger than the money attached to this lifestyle that we had created.
Man, hey, well, hold on. Me too. How many times have we been so consumed with the business and literally thinking we've got to control? When you said the one-man band, I think about that slide we share in the 2-day boot camp, which we do. It's at mastermindretreats.com. But I think about that slide, and it's this guy hitting tambourine and cymbal and trying to play the drum, and he's got something on his leg, his arm, his head, and he just looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
And a one-man band. And so, man, me too. Like I thought I could do it all. I could work more hours. Toni, what's been so fascinating, and my life has been transformed being a part of this group. I was able to become a partner and really be immersed in this culture about a year ago when Carl, it just was a divine flow, and we knew that this was the right thing. And I'm telling you, Toni, there's an unlocking in people's lives to find a better way. We used to think, the industry tells us, Toni, it's always busy, 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 busy. And they're countercultural with help. It's like, hey, you got to do it all. And what we've learned is there's a better way, and it's typically a who. But man, how gut wrenching when your kid says, man, like, when does it stop?
Yeah. And the kids don't care, right? They don't care that it's a real misconception that you're doing the right thing for them, because at what point are you way past providing essentials? So it's this,
Wow.
there's so much that's going on underneath the hood for those of us that are in those positions. That's way more, because the truth is nobody ever went hungry. Nobody ever didn't have a roof over their head, and nobody didn't have the clothes they needed on their back. So at what point am I filling a different void that I've put underneath this umbrella of providing for my family?
Hey, wow. Toni, that's really deep, because sometimes it's the drive for feeling accomplished, or that the validation that success can bring, not recognizing we're losing our families. We're
Yeah.
losing our spouses. We're losing the people that are close because this industry wasn't designed. I mean, I feel like you're not called to be run by an industry. We're called to
Mhm.
lead industries, and that requires teams and people. And so, okay, so listen, you had this conversation. What began to change? You met Carl. You're at the Freedom Club,
Yeah, I
like
came to the
the six
group.
years. Talk,
Yeah,
and
so
you're a
6 years
broker, by the
ago.
way, so you're not a
Yes,
bank, which is
correct.
pretty cool. So, okay, talk to us.
Yeah. So I came to the 3 day event. I didn't even know there was a Freedom Club, right? I had no idea there was a coaching opportunity behind this 3 day event. I was just going to get some quick nuggets to figure out how to shift. And I got there and I was like, I need this coaching more than I've ever needed anything in my life. And so I immediately signed up, got involved, and it's been an interesting 6 years. It's not been a straight line. And it's funny. I mean, we're so, I don't know where in our lives we believe that anybody that has success has a straight line. I don't know where that
Mm.
comes from, but where so many of us are walking around thinking that that's what it looks like. And
Wow.
yeah, and at the time I came in, I had a business partner. And 4 years ago, we severed that relationship and had to basically tear down the company that we had built together and redo it again. And without the Freedom Club behind me, could I have done it? Yeah, because we can do anything we set our minds to. That's the truth. I don't care where you come from. I didn't go to college. I've been working the school of hard knocks my whole life. And, so could I have figured it out? Yes, but I can promise you the path, the journey, the information is way different because I have these resources. I am a broker. And for most of us in the business, broker means small business owner. And you're the CEO, the CFO, the accountant, you're doing a lot of things. Well, the great part about having this community in the broker world is that I now have all these other people that are way smarter than me, that we share ideas and resources and brainstorm. And, it's just been amazing. That gave me the confidence that I could do it on my own. And, really, it changed a lot in that first couple of years. I remember I had never taken a vacation where I didn't have my phone and my laptop. And I would always spend time with my family and my parents, my brother, but I was never disconnected from work. And I remember the first vacation that we all took together, and my mom saying to me 2 days into the vacation, "It's really nice to actually have you with us." Yeah.
That wow, that's powerful.
Yeah. So how much damage was I doing to all these relationships in my life? Because I
Mm.
thought that I was the only one that could do everything for everybody. It really is, when I look at it now, I understand how ego charged it is. And it's ego, but it's also insecurity. Insecurity shows up as a lot of crazy, ugly things. And I was definitely a ball of insecurity. So it was really those other people taking notice and speaking, was affirming like, oh wow, I can never get that time back.
Yeah.
And but I can start to be intentional. And now I'm very lucky, I'm able to take a lot of vacations, and I never take my computer and I never take my phone, and my teams do an amazing job, and we help a lot more families. We employ, through not only giving people mortgages, we help more families, but also through employment, we help more families. And one of my
Mm.
favorite scenario stories that this happened with a guy that works for me. Brian and I have known each other for over 30 years. He was actually my second boss in the business in 1990. And he came to work with me, ironically, right before I went to the 3 day event. I had no idea this model. I had no idea, right? And he came to work for me because he wanted to get back in the business. He'd left in the crash. But he didn't, the gap, he didn't know where to start. So I said, come on in, I'll teach you how to do it, and we'll launch in origination when you're ready. And when I relaunched my new company 4 years ago, I had an appreciation dinner, a gratitude dinner for the people that had been in my life and supported me, and people that worked for me that would take bullets, and so on and so forth. And I, at the gratitude dinner, I thanked everybody because from the bottom of my heart, like I'm nowhere without these people. And Brian's wife stood up and said, "You not only changed your life, but you changed our life." And she said, my husband was
Wow.
running a retail grocery store, missing every ball game, missing every practice, and you gave us that
Wow.
back.
Wow.
And it's like, I get chills even talking about it now, because, you think on some level, I'm like, God, I'm just selfish doing these
Yeah.
things. But the truth is that it does spill over. And those kind of things are, you know, amazingly impactful. People are suffering from the same things and they don't know how to make those changes either. And if you
Yeah.
can if you can in some way touch their lives, that they can, whether you're part of the journey like I was with his, or in some other way, just by sharing inside information of you can do this, this is how,
Yep.
then you're really creating this butterfly effect on the world. And the impact is endless.
Yeah, that's huge. Hey, well, Toni, that is so, I mean, that, what's interesting, even as you're talking, one of the things that I hear is the power of teams. Let me say one thing you said just a minute ago about straight lines. And I don't know if this is true, but I've always heard it. I've read a couple of books and they say that planes don't take straight lines. Like if you were flying from Washington to California, they're off course something like 80 or 90% of the time. It's you got to do this, that computer's doing a constant readjusting back to where it's going, because the further your distance is, even if you were 1 degree off, the further off you would be from your destination. And it's just so true, man. Life does not move in straight lines, but your pain can be a setup, or your setback can be something that fuels the comeback of your business. I remember, there's seasons where it was like, and this is my story. It was 25 years old, dead broke, $250,000 in debt, 4 houses in foreclosure. And what seemed to be a setback in that season was really, I believe, God setting me up for a comeback and helping to forge the character, the resolve, the decision of there's no plan B. And so regardless, if you're listening today, Toni, I just feel such an encouraging word for our people today, our listeners. Everything you're saying is just, it just feels so encouraging. Like this is the episode where you're going to leave and say, you know what? I feel renewed. I feel like this is my calling. I feel like I've got a purpose and plan to make a difference and impact in the lives, like you just said, of your team members. Because we're not even thinking about, the more selfish we are and say, only I can do it that way. Hey, and this is where I want to go. I want you to talk about teams, because I'm a recovering control freak. Like literally, it was like the words out of my mouth were like, Toni, nobody can do it as good as I can. Yeah. You can't do it. I can't release it. They don't understand. They don't know what it's like to be broke. They don't know what it's like to lose a deal or to have to pay to close a loan. And here's what's the funny thing is they don't have to know, lead your team well. So talk about what it was like as you started getting help. Like, how did you do it? And, talk about the next season. And man, I love that you launched a new thing 4 years ago, and look at where you've come. Come on. It's just the beginning.
It really is. And, I'm going to lean into what you just said about thinking that you've got to be the only one, because I think this is something really important for people to just take some time to reflect on. And the reason I believe that many of us think that we're the only one that can do it as well as we do is really has nothing to do with the fact that we are the best at it. I think it has more to do with our fear of how people see us. And I think that you really have to take a step back and understand that I promise you, people do not, they want the money. They want the experience to be really well. They want to feel safe in the hands of the people that they're working with. And you will never look good looking like you're running the one-man band. You won't.
It looks like a disaster.
It really does. It looks like, what nut job would do this, right? So really, I would encourage people, really take a look at that and go, why do I think that I'm the only one? What is it that I'm afraid of happening? What am I afraid of being uncovered? And again, it goes back to, insecurities and things like that. That's the truth. That's the root of that.
Hey, hold on. I want to challenge you. Listen, play. You know what I just heard? I heard this. I can't do it because the last person I hired was such a mess.
Oh yeah.
You know what? Here's the words I literally heard from our listeners today was, I've done that before and it didn't work.
Yeah.
What's interesting, Toni, is we say it all the time, and I don't know where I took it from. Somebody said it, and I heard it. And when I heard it, I locked in on it. But it's a lot like this. I went and got my hair cut couple days ago, and it was funny because I went to her, I've been to somebody and they scalp you, like literally it's like I got a buzz. I'm like, are you kidding? You cut it all off. Well, just because I get a bad haircut doesn't mean I quit getting my haircut. I've got a choice. I can either stay where I'm at and keep getting a bad haircut, or I can choose to go find another barber or a beautician that can get it right. And I think in the hiring world, here's the challenge, Toni. Who taught you how to hire? Who taught 100%. Me how to hire? And I know, like in the Freedom Club, man, my gosh, you got people like Kristen, and like we've built this whole hiring machine, like even which ads to put, the ads are even written for you. Yeah. So when you link arms with people like you and Carl and Tammy and Kristen and Irene, it's like all of these things become unlocked in your life. And it's like, I don't have to figure it out. Listen, I had a bad haircut. I made a bad hire. Now I'm going to get with people that have done it way better than I have and recognize only about 1 in 4 employees will stay with you. And that's
Yeah.
okay. It's just a numbers game.
Yeah, it really is. I always, as a parent, the analogy of our kids learning to walk, what baby just got up and walked? None. They fall down, they get back up. They fall down, they get back up. It's the same thing. And you just have to keep going. And you have to know that every time you make a mistake, you learn from it. And then you apply that knowledge to the next process. I came up with a question recently that I've added to my recruiting that I'm going to ask every single person that I interview. And the question is, you can laugh when I share this with you. When you get in your friend's new car, are you the person that asks what the button does? Or are you the person that pushes the button without asking? And the reason,
what's the right answer?
So I want the person that pushes the button without asking, because I want people that are not afraid to take charge. I want, the truth is, how many things in your life can you break that are unfixable?
Yeah.
Technologies. And I want people that are like, I am going to find out if the answer is behind curtain number, 3. I want people that can think for themselves and are not afraid to take some chances so that they can grow and develop and learn for themselves instead of always going to somebody else for the answer. So that's my theory behind that. But yeah, the building of the teams is huge, and it's a process. I mean, I've made plenty of bad hires, and sometimes a bad hire isn't a bad hire. It's just not the right fit. The culture's different, the environment's different. I know even in my early years of my career in my 20s, when I took my first job in wholesale, the first company I went to work for was an epic fail. And it was, then the second company I went to work for, and honestly, I feel like I got lucky. It was the second company and not the fifth, but I locked arms with a mentor that changed everything for me.
Yeah.
And it was the right culture. It was the right environment. It was the right personalities, and it was the right space for me. And there were plenty of other people that were doing great in that other environment. It wasn't my home.
Yeah.
So, the same thing is true here. It's not always because, again, I've had some people that, we could all share stories if we've been doing this long enough, but you just keep going and you refine your process and you lean on the people that have been, I love to find somebody that's just a couple steps ahead of me. Because sometimes when somebody's too far ahead of me, there's a disconnect in relatability.
Oh, that's good. Hey, talk about that. Now, you know what I think, Toni? It can be both and. Like, I want to look at, like, that's what I love about Carl. Inspires me. He's several steps ahead with his $2 billion branch, but I love to look at him. But if I want to grow to the next level, I got to take a couple of steps back, because I may not be ready to implement what he's doing fully, but I need to find somebody who's a little bit closer to where I'm at, but at least 2 to 5 steps ahead. I love that, Toni.
Yeah.
And as you're doing it, there's the inspiration, which is, hey, it can be done. We talk about it all the time in the Freedom Club. I want you to say, Toni wants you to say, me too. Because here's what I know. If we can do it, I'm a 6-year college dropout coming from obscurity and poverty and literally seeing this success we're seeing. Toni, you got a similar story. And I can look at Robert Filial, and I look at all of our dear friends, man. You look at Brady, and you look at Carl, and you look at Tammy. And what's happened is you want people to say, hey, if you can do it, guess what? Surely I can do it.
Yeah. Well, and here's the plus, right? You can do it and have a life. The big thing I will say in 2022 for me that I want people to walk away with is stop feeling or believing. Beliefs can be so limiting, because if you believe it, you're done, right? Like, if you don't believe, if your beliefs don't support your next move, it's over with. So believing that you really can have it both. You can have a business that's growing and you can have a life. And the fact is, you can have both. You have to learn how to do it, because it may be a new space, but there are plenty of people that have done it before you.
Yeah. Hey, and you know what you got to do too, Toni? The industry, how long you been in the industry? When did you get in?
I got in 1990, so I'm 31
Listen,
years.
I cannot believe you're 31 years in. You must have been like 10, because you don't look anywhere like you could have 30 years in this industry. I got in 2002, licensed in 2003. And I will tell you, the industry demands that you do it alone. The industry demands that the loan officer be alone, and you go get your business, you clean your business, you chase your pay stubs, you submit a clean file. And if you don't, you'll get reprimanded, but we need more business. Go get it. Yeah. And what we have found is this: don't do it alone. Yeah. There's a better way. And if that's the culture you're currently in, listen, go to your managers, the people you're with, and try to talk to them about help. But if it doesn't change and you can't change the culture, find a place. And listen, I'm not encouraging a bunch of change, but I'm telling you, don't be stuck. There's a better way. I love this. There's a phrase a dear friend of mine said years ago, and I will never forget this, but he said, life moves at the speed of relationships. Life moves at the speed of relationships. And that's why it's so important to be connected in a community to challenge you. For Toni to speak, words of encouragement where it's like, dude, I've done that and I failed. Well, no, so have we all. Good. Get up. Let's go. Boots on, girl. Put your boots on, son. Let's go.
Yeah, there's no solution. I mean, lick your wounds and go. You take your minute, but don't let that recovery be so long that it's, really affects everything that you do going forward. There's nobody around you that hasn't had challenges, and everybody's had them. And the people that are the most successful have had the most failures. And you just may not have been part of their journey to play witness to those things, but they're there. I promise you.
That is so good. Okay. Well, listen, so now you're building a team, right? And we can help you at the Marketing Animals with what team structure looks like. Hey, what does my first hire do? What does my second hire do? But now you're building a team. And so what are you doing to become more effective in leading your teams?
Yeah. So one of my priorities this year is really fine tuning my systems and processes to give my teams more efficiencies. I do coach my team every single week. We spend time, talking about what's working, what's not working, how we can adopt, how we can identify the bottlenecks. And, even those things, right? Sometimes we get it right the first time. Sometimes we have to try a couple of different things. But my rule is we change nothing unless it improves at the very least one of two people's lives, either my staff, but it cannot improve my staff and make it worse for my referral partners or my clients, or it can be better for my clients and my referral partners, but it cannot make my staff's life worse. So we have to have that blend. And so we're always looking at how can we fine tune, enrich, reduce duplication. Systems and technologies are fantastic, but there's a lot of traps in them as well. And you have to be very careful. First of all, there's a lot of shiny objects out there that look like they're going to be the easy button for you. And they're not, not always. And so you just have to be exactly. You have to be very intentional about what you're doing. And it's okay to make mistakes. Part of the way that you grow is to fall down a little bit, scrape your knees and go, okay, that didn't work. Or maybe part of it worked, but part of it didn't. You keep the part that worked and you make the 1 degree adjustment. And it doesn't mean scrapping it. More times than not, it really is a 1 degree adjustment that gets you what you want to get out of it.
It's so powerful. Hey, you know what, Toni, what I think we got to share as well is encourage your teams. Right before we jumped on this podcast, one of the things that listen, if you've hired them and they're an A player, now if you're listening today, I would ask you this question real quick. Think of your employee or your team member. Are they an A, B, or C? If they're anything other than an A, you've got to replace them. And listen, I know that's going to be hard to hear, but you're doing them a disservice and they're doing you a disservice by keeping them on a team and staying in a B, C, or D role. But what you've got to do is, here's what I love. When I bring A players on, Toni, we don't have to have every solution. So even as you were talking about processes and systems, my thought is go as you're going to your team, which is what we're doing right now. I think it's the theme for the year. It's what we literally on Thursdays are spending half a day working on the business. And it is, okay, hey, you're the champion of this area. Hey, you're the champion of the pre-approval specialist. You're the champion of the mortgage expert. You're the champion of the front end. You're the champion of the back end. What should we do? Where are the inefficiencies? Where do you see opportunities? And I think the more we equip and empower our people to take the steps, the more confident they get to say, oh, I can do it. It is on the inside of me. And some of you that are listening today, you've got the right team members. You got to start moving them in different positions because you thought they were a loan partner, but they're actually better as a pre-approval specialist. You thought they were a business development rep, but their gifting and talent is chasing conditions and loving on borrowers. And so when you've got the A players, just keep moving them around in chess and you'll see it unlock on the inside of them and their gifts and talents and love and passion. And where maybe they were getting discouraged, they become encouraged because they're operating operating in what they love. They're
Yeah.
operating in what they're good at. And here's the cool thing, Toni, we talk about the triad of awesomeness. It's what they're great at, what they love, and what makes you and your team the most money. And
Yeah.
as you get everybody laser focused, it just helps you explode. But listen, talk about messy. Isn't it a little messy?
Oh, it's
Oh,
very
they're gonna
messy.
make mistakes.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, one thing, it's so funny, and I got to share it real quick. But my team made a mistake 3 weeks ago that almost cost me $5,000, and it wasn't one team member; it was three missed it. And I could have went in like the old Steve, the controlling Steve, Toni would have said, "What are you doing? I can't believe it. You will not. You," and I could have thrown up all over them. And here's what I said: you know what, guys? I know your intention. I know your heart. I know that you weren't malicious, and I know that this is just an oversight. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to fix it, and you're going to show me the solution. And I'm going to call, it was with one of my channel accounts, which is a brokerage, was their agent. And I called the broker, and I told him, I said, Wayne, I made a mistake, and I want you to know I will do whatever it takes to make it right. If this loan doesn't close, I'll personally refund the money to the borrower, and we will make it right. But be clear, I made the mistake. And as the team saw me step to the front to take the hit and allow them the opportunity to fix the back end, guess what, Toni? 3 days later, the loan closed.
Yeah. Well, you
But
know
the
what
old
comes
Steve
out of
would have
that?
torn them down, man. I would have beat them up, and guess what? It just would have destroyed my team. And that's
Yeah.
not leadership.
Well, and here's the other byproduct of that, right? That person that you had to go to, Wayne, sees you in an entirely different light because most people don't do what you did. Most people spin it, try to make a bunch of excuses or make it somebody else's responsibility, but you owned it. And that's a unique character in today's society. And I go back to even in my wholesale career, I remember a deal that I had that something had gone sideways, and I showed up at the broker's office, and he was like, "What are you doing here? You're the last person I expected to see." And I said, "Well, here's how I look at it. You're mad at me right now, and rightfully so, because my team botched it. I have one shot to make this right, and I'm going to do everything I can to stand up and show you." And he became one of my most loyal and my biggest producer because I was there when the going got rough, and I didn't just go, straight to voicemail and, sorry, crickets, you're on your own. And I think that, most people, it's like anything, right? If nobody argues with you, there's nobody to argue with. If you just go in and own it and take the, to me, the right road, I won't even call it the high road because I just think it's the right thing to do. You diffuse everything. And most people are pretty gracious when you show up and you're human.
Well, man, I feel like you and I could go for days, because you know what will happen is if you'll address it head on, take ownership and responsibility, empower and equip your team. And when they make a mistake, just say, you know what, guys, we bought an education. I trust it won't happen again. That girl the realtor whose deal that was, guess what? The day that we were supposed to close and we addressed it head on, she sent us another referral. Like she's it's exactly what you're saying. When they realize your character isn't forged in when it's easy, it's forged when it's tough. And they want to know that you're going to go to battle for them, your team and the partners. And so I love that, man. Toni, what else? We got about 5 more minutes. I want you to share what else is on your heart to,
I think that, the biggest thing, two things, like I said earlier, walk away knowing that you absolutely can have both. And then here's another reality. If somebody's listening to this, chances are they're in a path of growth and personal development stuff, which is amazing. But the truth is you may be trying to put yourself in a space that's not your triad of awesomeness. And I think that really getting in touch with who you are individually is very important. And then looking at what you want your business and your life to look like and making sure that you find other people to do the things that are going to prevent you from having the life and the business that you want. So it's all possible. The things that you may absolutely cringe to do, somebody else may love to do. And you knowing your staff, like you were saying, I have a girl that works for me. She's been with me for, I think, 6 years now. She's a gift. Her gift is people. And I have had a very bad habit of putting technology on her. And every time I do, she's frustrated and I'm frustrated. And so really understanding not only yourself, but the people on your team is really critical to making sure that you keep them in the right spaces. And when you start to see friction there, you got to take those pauses and go, am I asking this person to do something that's not in alignment with who their personality is?
Hey, hold on. Let me, that's so good. I mean, every listener needs to hear that, because I think some of us do not have the wrong people. They're in the wrong space. 3 questions I love to ask, Toni. You know what I'm looking for? we do monthly one-on-ones, and even with my team each month, I'm just saying, here's the three things that I look for, and this tells me whether you're an A player. Number one, how's your attitude? On a scale of 1 to 10, you self-assess. A scale of 1 to 10, seven's not an option. How's your attitude? Then and if I've got nines and tens, dude, that's an A player. How's your effort? That tells me how you're showing up every day. Scale of 1 to 10, seven's not an option. Nine and tens, those are A players. That means you put your boots on every day. You show up early. You stay late. You do more than's expected of you because I'm here to win. And the third one, this is where I think we can evaluate, are they in the right spot or not? How's your effectiveness? So your heart's here. You're working your efforts here. But how's your effectiveness? Scale of 1 to 10. Well, man, I'm struggling. I just can't seem to find that rhythm. Well, is it training, or is it you're doing what you're not uniquely gifted to do? Hey, let's have you take a disc assessment. Let's make sure you're in the right spot. But when you've got people firing on attitude, effort, and effectiveness at nines and tens, the world will be your playground because you will absolutely explode.
Well, the analogy I use, they always say find a unicorn, right? And if you've ever watched the Crazy Girl Matrix, or I forget what it's called, that which is hysterical. But the truth is, unless you've seen a unicorn, you don't know what one looks like, because they're not walking around with horns on their head. So you really have to, if you don't have people in your team, you've gone through these exercises and it's just not apparent to you that you have the right people, then I would encourage you to look in your community and your other people that are out there. The people that are selfless and sharing and stuff like that, they're happy to let you look in behind and see and say, if you've got a unicorn on your team, I need to know what that looks like. Have you done a disc evaluation on them? Because I'd love to see it. And then just have enough dialogue to understand what's the role that person's in, what's the, and so you can make sure you're mirroring that for the same role in your own business. So using that community you're not alone. I promise you're not alone.
Hey, well, dude, we could talk forever.
I know.
Because what I was just thinking about, and you're leveraging your relationships in a cool way, but like literally Rachel Tarman she was on a couple of episodes back about the business development rep, 50 million. You've been a big part of that story. And what's interesting, and right now I've got 2 business development reps I'm bringing on. And I literally called Rachel and I said, "Hey girl, I've got the disc. Would you look at it? Would you help me?" And because of our friendship, it's just one of those, when you've got relationships, you don't have to do it alone. And she was able to say, yes. Hey, I like that. Ask this question. What do you think about that? And it's the community that says, okay, well, that may have stopped me from making mistakes. It helps you go further faster. And so I just love it. I love it.
And it's not going to stop you from making mistakes. So be okay with making mistakes.
Yes. You'll make less of them.
Yes.
And you'll pivot faster because somebody will say, that's the wrong person. Get rid of them.
Exactly.
And courage to know that when I do, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Toni, I have got to tell you, you are remarkable. I have loved every minute. The day I met you at that, you remember the fire pit at Carl's house? That night was the very first time I'd ever been exposed to the mortgage marketing animals. And it was just under a year ago. And I've got to tell you, you're a gift to our organization. You're a gift to this community. And if you're listening today and you say, this resonates with me, join us on the journey. Get close to what we're doing. You could do a freedom planning, go to freedomplanningcall.com, freedomplanningcall.com, book a coaching demo. Let us put together a strategy for you and let us help show you freedom. What I wrote down, you have literally walked out from working 60, 70 hours a week to a life of freedom. Yeah. And what I want to tell our listeners is, and so can you. So Toni, thank you so much for being here and just sharing some of your story, girl. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you. You're part of it, man. You help me. You have no idea, in ways that you don't even know you help me on a daily and weekly basis. So I appreciate you as well.
I love it. I love it. Hey, well, listen, make sure you're subscribing and sharing the podcast. So wherever you consume content, hit the subscribe button and it'll automatically come to you each week. We're dropping a couple of episodes a week. One of them is the typical episode. On Saturdays, I'm dropping scripts and structure that is really designed to help your team get better. So thank you for being a part. Hey, if you know 3 other loan officers, 1, 2, 3, not 1, not 2, 3 loan officers. Would you share this episode with them if you feel like it would help them go further, faster, and help them in their business? I would personally really, really appreciate it. We're trying to continue to help lead this industry and make an impact. So thank you for being on the journey. And remember this, anything worth doing is worth doing badly. Just get started. See you.
Absolutely.